What's going to be powerful is a very instinctive choice, and I've learned to just trust my own judgment about what is going to have impact. I can tell when I'm writing that something's going well because it makes me physically get out of my seat and shouting at my laptop, yes! You know, and I can tell that this is something that's got legs, it's got potential. And that doesn't have to be an aggressive, loud, smash-in-the-face potential. That could be a potential to be something very soft and reflective, but I want it to have power. I feel generally that if it's got that kind of power for me, I hope it's going to have the same kind of power for someone else. I don't think I came from a especially musical family, so I didn't grow up hearing tons of music especially. My dad loves classical music, and my mum has got one tape of Graceland in the car, which we listen to obsessively, so I kind of know all the Shostakovich symphonies and Paul Simon, what I heard of a lot of as a kid. Maybe my very first memory was that I'd somehow picked up the tune of Gymnopédie, like this Erik Satie, like do 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 do. And I'd somehow heard this tune, and I remember just bouncing on my bed in time to it, not knowing what the tune was. And my mum saying, "What are you singing?" And I had this tune in my head, and I thought it fitted so well with leaping about in this bed. The first music making I really remember was at primary school, where everyone had to learn the recorder and the violin, and we'd all learn these lovely Scottish folk songs. So I remember learning the Skye boat song, and I loved immediately that massed sound and how much fun it is just to be making music with people. Age about 11, I started learning clarinet. Every day after school I'd be going to do a choir or orchestra. It was just an amazing resource that geeks like me who weren't especially cool at school had this other whole life in orchestras. So I think music was a kind of a lifesaver as a teenager. I don't remember ever a moment of going, yes, I will be a composer. It's just an evolving thing. You make one little decision. Okay, I'll take music as an exam next year. Okay, I'll go and study music as a degree. Okay, I'll go and study as a postgrad. And you just deal with the decision that's kind of right there in front of you then and see what opportunities that opens up from there. One of the first big pieces I was asked to write was for the 2008 last night of the Proms. The Proms is over 2 months of classical music concerts every day, mostly in the Albert Hall. But the last night of the Proms is this kind of different, very patriotic night where they always play all these really old-fashioned sort of sing-alongs, and the director of the Proms wanted a new piece for this concert. He asked me to write a piece for 5 orchestras, one in Albert Hall, but then also connected by satellite in Glasgow, Ireland, Wales, and also in another big park in London.
I'm so excited. I've been gearing up for this for months. So, the piece carries on continuously in the hall with the BBC Symphony and chorus, and then one at a time, elements feed in from all around the UK. So it's kind of and then everyone piles in again at the end.
They wouldn't know what the delays were going to be from these different feeds. So it was a real challenge to work out how I could write a piece that wouldn't matter what the timings were from these different things. I remember being given this really tricky brief where they said, if we're going to feature these other orchestras, it's got to be clear that they've come in. They're not just a backdrop to the consistent orchestra, but it's also totally possible that the feeds might fail. and that they might not have it at all. And I was thinking, how do you write something that is simultaneously really important and also totally disposable at the same time? I ended up just kind of trying to write strong ideas that sort of fought against each other, so that then if it had failed, you'd still have one strong thing rather than two fighting against each other, rather than a big hole, like feeling like something was missing. It was a really amazing experience. I got actual physical hate mail from people. You've ruined my life, you know, the Proms should be this. And, you know, some lovely stuff. I got asked out on dates from random weirdos. 40 million people watched that concert. I remember just trying not to overthink how many people were going to hear it, how many people were going to hate it, how many people it was going to freak out or worry, and all the technical stuff. You just got to trust that it's going to be okay, and just that denial, I've found that a very helpful tool.
Hi, I'm Anna Meredith. I'm the composer of HandsFree. We've made this short video so that you can learn the 6 steps that make up the third movement of the piece. The first step is a beatbox kick sound, which you make by pushing air in a P or B sound out through your lips, like this.
I've been lucky that a lot of my contemporary classical work gets performed again more than just once. One of the pieces is HandsFree, that I wrote initially in 2012 for the National Youth Orchestra of Britain, a piece for an orchestra but without any instruments. In order to teach this piece, initially we send out a preparatory little video where I teach just a few of the sounds and moves. The whole thing's choreographed. After they've kind of got the hang of those few steps, me and Jack, the workshop leader, all go out to work with the orchestra, whoever it is, to build the whole piece together. The initial idea was that it would be a clapping piece, a bit like Reich's clapping music. But even if you're sitting clapping at a gig or something, it's sore to clap for more than about 15 seconds. So I knew quite quickly that I'd need to create varieties.
If you feel like where the air comes out, and this needs to go here now.
Wait, that one is going to be same deal. Yeah? Don't go And you can't do it like me, you just... It's okay. Okay, after 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah!
Quite often as composers, you're seen as someone who spends all this time tweaking and writing the thing and imagining how it's going to be on the score, and then you hand it over. I've never been a very good craftsman, I don't think. I think I'm someone who always enjoyed working with people a lot more and spend a bit of time with the orchestra and describe how I want it done. And that being there, for me, is so much better than trying to get stuff down in writing. A lot of the really crazy pieces I've done have not been my idea. Those ideas come when someone else says, would you write us a piece for 5 symphony orchestras? Would you write us a piece with no instruments? And I then have to work out a way to be creative within those restrictions. Practically, you don't have a lot of control as a classical composer. You are kind of just sitting back and waiting for someone else to commission you or offer you an opportunity or a workshop. Actually, that was what got me into electronics in the first place. I wanted one area of my music writing where I was saying, I'd love to do this, I want to try this, and I want to be the one in complete control from start to performance reality, rather than handing it over for someone else to do stuff where you're the puppet master from start to finish. I did a piece with these Campbell Composers Collective mates called Axeman. We got a bassoon and we just put a gaffer taped a mic to it and ran it through a distortion pedal and into an amp. I didn't really know what I was doing, I was twiddling the pedals and stuff, but it was the first sort of bit of electronics I ever tried. As a group of mates, remixed each other's pieces on Cool Edit Pro. I loved the fact that I was self-sufficient, that I could make this thing and then press spacebar and it would play, and that felt great. So it just felt like an evolving idea of, you know, getting more confident with working out how to make the electronics work for me and work around my skills and how I thought about music, and not let the idea of using software or hardware dictate what the music had to be. When I was studying, I'd been really overthinking a piece. I'd been writing it for months, and I'd come to my lessons and show my teacher, and I'd be agonising over all these small details. And he said, okay, I know you've got loads of ideas. I just want you to sing me the piece. And I was going, what? And he said, no, just sing it. So I sort of started singing these ideas, and he was sort of drawing what I was doing. And I realised that I knew so much more than I thought I did, what the whole piece was about. So whatever kind of piece I'm writing, I'll always try and start with just a really simple drawn sketch that shows the dramatic shape of what I'm writing. When I'm drawing these sketches, I might have a couple of little musical details. Here's a few chords, here's a few rhythms, and you kind of set those flags on this timeline. It's about this moment where this bass line comes in, or this beat comes in, or you hear this sample, or whatever it is. And now I know we're heading for this kind of texture, maybe using these kind of rhythms, and then I'm just trying to set up how you get there and where you go from there. It's about contextualising. If you're telling a story to your friends, if you've got an amazing reveal, you contextualise it around stuff that's totally different, so that this out of the blue thing comes as a real shock. It's the same with writing a piece of music. If you know you want a particular event to take place, you sort of plot out where that's going to come, and you lay everything out so that it has the most impact. I really find it helps to have these sort of markers. It really helps you sort of see the direction of where you're going. So, you know, from there, the next step for me would be to then go to Sibelius or Ableton, and I'll put in the details that I do know, so that it's never just improvising and noodling. It's always, I know where this is heading, I know where this idea is heading, and we all know that the whole thing is heading to this point. So you're kind of starting to fill in the gaps rather than just work your way start to end. I definitely didn't immediately feel confident being a producer. You know, I would have felt like I wasn't qualified to say I was doing electronics. A lot of the first things were just endless layers of sound, because that's what the software wanted to do. It could sound quite cool, but it had none of the dynamic shape, which is what I love doing. So it did take me a long time to work out, I've got these tools, these are my skills, work for me. I write stuff in Sibelius, in notation software. I export the MIDI, and then I put all that information into Ableton and work from there. Sibelius is primarily designed for writing instrumental music. It's not designed for playback. So I'm working on a kind of general MIDI, terrible woodwind and brass sounds. If you're excited by something of how it sounds in general MIDI, then that material works. That's a really nice position to be in, because you can have so much fun then saying, okay, what happens if we get some real instruments in there? It's quite easy to lose yourself in the rabbit hole of everything the software can do, and then almost let that control you rather than you controlling it. It's actually just about saying, I just need this thing to do this. Sure, it can do that. There might even be a better way of doing it, but this is how I'm going to approach it. There's definitely been an evolution through the records I've made. The first EP is just synthesized sounds. I wasn't working with my band at that point. There's some instruments in the next EP, tiny bit of singing.
I try to discover a little something to make me sweeter.
And then the album has a lot more of all of those things. The new album's called Fibs. It means white lies, soft lies. I actually spent more time on this one notating the music and working on the actual composition before I went to the electronics. Because I'd spent so long at the composing stage, I had a clearer idea of this is what I'm looking for, and I guess had a better idea of how to go about finding it. Everyone in the band has very proper classical backgrounds. We've all know it intimately, having recorded it, and we've done hundreds of takes of it while we were making the album, so I think everybody kind of feels they know it backwards. I've been so used to just working on my own on a laptop, and suddenly changing it into a live version, it requires thinking about the music slightly differently. Start to think about how it practically works, how different stems get out and how people hear clicks and those kind of boring things.
On some of those,
I want to make sure there's space for everybody to talk about what they think is going to work.
Yeah, so you were happy to just take that last
Yeah. Maybe that element should come in a couple of bars later, so why don't you do this?
You're doing octaves, aren't you? You're not
Yeah.
As a group, we'll try and figure out problems together, and that's a really lovely kind of sharing of responsibility and energy.
We'll put a special in for one.
We get on really well as a band, and we have some very geeky common interests. We just are quite goofy and enjoy hanging out, and we like playing phenomenally unsexy card games. And we've got a game called Exploding Kittens, which we sort of drag around with us all around the world where we've been, and play in dressing rooms and hotel rooms. And you know, when we're driving, we listen to audiobooks and we do quizzes. The least cool band you will ever experience. I think I had quite a 90s idea of the pop world. Great pools of cash and sexy buses and riders of all this stuff, and the actual reality of being a sort of performing band is really hard work. You're the people who set the instruments up, and you're the people who take the instruments down, and you sell the merch, and you stay in the cheapest possible hotel. So I've got such respect now, I see, for bands and DJs and producers and people making music, because I see how tough it is.
We just like did a bit about a dummy road.
Oh really?
Well, just me like bashing along.
With classical music, there's a lot of funding. You can have amazing performances that are only performed to a very small amount of people because there's infrastructure to support them. Now having to flip to a model where it's as clear as you bring this amount of people in, you'll get paid that much, means that my commissions basically support my pop music, and that's maybe the other way around than you might expect.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Whew. Have I been thanking enough people? Apparently I do too much thanking. I'm just polite. Can't stop myself, you know. Thank you. Oh, sure.
I do enjoy chatting.
This is so natural.
The juxtaposition of this loud, bombastic music and then this quite kind of like rambling, chatty, ancient Scottish woman. This music's got some really silly moments that are really fun to play, and I don't want to be there at the side peering at a laptop while everyone else is honking away or whatever. I want to be part of that. We all have fun with it, and I would hate to suck the fun out of it to try and seem a bit cooler. Joyful is what some people have said. It makes me really happy if that's how it feels as an audience.
Guys, what can I get for you?
You have to have such self-belief that this is going to evolve into a sustainable thing, and you know, obviously we're still in some ways very near the beginning, still playing small venues and doing a lot of the stuff ourselves, but you know, it feels like it's starting to grow, which is lovely. It's great to be playing bigger venues because the sound matches the music a bit better. And you know, I've got all kinds of ideas about things I want to do in the future, and you can't do a lot of that stuff when you're playing small venues to small audiences because the money isn't there or the stage isn't big enough for a huge robot dragon. I hope it's not an ego-y desire to be successful, it's just I don't know any other way than to, you know, you just sense that there's a new challenge ahead or something new, you want to see how that feels to be doing this, you know, something inside me says, give it a go. In a way it's tough because you can't ever stop, but it's also exciting because there's growth, and that idea of pulling on the brakes feels a bit scary, I guess.